The Zathan delegation stood in uneasy silence aboard the human research station, their crystalline exoskeletons clicking nervously. Ambassador Krells held the containment unit close to his thorax. The dying creature inside was barely visible through the frosted glass. "We apologize for this inadequate gift," Krellix's translator crackled. "Ravier was once the pride of our hunting reserves. Now he is nothing but a burden we cannot bear." Clara Wyn, a young xenobiologist barely 2 years out of the academy, stared at the ambassador in confusion. She had been called to the docking bay expecting a diplomatic meeting. Not this. Through the containment unit's window, she could see the outline of something large and feline, its breath shallow and labored. "I don't understand," Clara said softly. "Why bring him here if he's dying?" The ambassador's mandibles clicked in what the translator interpreted as shame. "Our medical technology cannot save him. The rhoticness has consumed his internal organs. We thought perhaps you would dispose of him mercifully. We cannot. He has served our people for 3 generations. Clara felt her heart clench. The Zathan were an advanced species, their bioengineering far beyond humanity's. If they couldn't save this creature, what chance did she have? Yet as she looked at the dying animal, something stirred within her. A peculiarly human impulse that had driven her species to domesticate wolves, nurse wounded birds, and bottle-feed orphaned wildlife. "Let me try," she heard herself say. The Zathan exchanged glances, their compound eyes glittering with something that might have been pity. They left the containment unit and departed without another word. When Clara opened the unit in her private lab, she understood why the aliens had given up. Ray was massive, nearly 3 meters long, with midnight black fur marked by bioluminescent stripes that barely flickered. His 6 legs were tucked beneath him, and his double rows of teeth were visible through cracked, bleeding lips. The stench of infection filled the room. "Oh, you poor thing," Clara whispered, fighting back tears. She spent the first 72 hours simply trying to stabilize him. The Zathan data was useless. Their medicine was designed for exoskeletal beings, not carbon-based predators. Clara worked from first principles, analyzing Ravier's blood, mapping his physiology, and running every scan her limited equipment allowed. The rhoticness was indeed devastating. It had eaten through his digestive system, leaving his organs barely functional. But Clara noticed something the Zathan had missed. The disease wasn't bacterial or viral, it was environmental. A slow poisoning from the synthetic atmosphere the Zathan maintained in their habitats. Humans had faced similar challenges for centuries. Ever since they'd left Earth, they had learned to adapt, finding solutions in the most unexpected places. Clara began a treatment protocol that would have seemed primitive to the Zathan. She changed Ravier's atmosphere to match Earth's, supplemented his fluids with organic compounds, and fed him through a gastric tube with a mixture of nutrients she synthesized herself. She slept in the lab, monitoring his vitals every few hours. She talked to him constantly, her voice a soothing presence in the sterile room. She cleaned his wounds, cooled his fever, and held his massive paw when his body convulsed with pain. "You're going to make it?" she told him on the 6th night, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to convince. "Humans don't give up, and neither will you." On the 7th day, Ravier opened his eyes for the first time. They were amber and gold with vertical pupils, focusing on Clara with startling intelligence. His bioluminescent stripes pulsed once, twice, then settled into a steady glow. Clara laughed through her tears. "Welcome back." The recovery was slow but steady. Within 3 weeks, Ravier could stand. Within 6, he could walk. Clara modified her lab to accommodate him, creating an environment that balanced his biological needs with Earth-compatible conditions. She learned his body language, his vocalizations, the way his stripes changed color with his moods. The Zathan returned on the 60th day, expecting to collect a corpse. Instead, they found Ravier lounging beside Clara's workstation, his coat glossy and healthy, his eyes bright with contentment. When Clara scratched behind his auditory ridges, he emitted a deep rumbling purr that shook the floor panels. Ambassador Krell stood frozen in the doorway. "Impossible. We tried everything. Our best scientists, our most advanced treatments." Clara looked up from her data pad, one hand still resting on Ravier's massive head. "You tried Zon solutions for a Zon problem. But Ravier isn't Zon. He's a living being with his own needs, his own biology. You just needed to see him for what he was, not what you wanted him to be." The ambassador's antenna drooped. "How did you succeed where we failed?" Clara smiled, the smile of someone who understood something fundamental about her species. Because humans are really good at adopting things that don't belong to us and making them thrive anyway. We've been doing it for thousands of years. She stood, and Ravier stood with her, his shoulder reaching her chest, his bioluminescent stripes pulsing in a complex pattern. Clara felt his mind brush against hers, a side effect of the bond they'd formed, something the Zathan had never achieved in 3 generations. "Thank you for the gift," Clara said. "But he was never yours to give away. He's his own being, and if he chooses to stay with me, then that's his choice." Ravier's purr deepened, pressing his massive head against Clara's side. The choice was clear. The Zathan left, confused and humbled. Word spread throughout the galaxy about the human who had saved the unsavable, who had refused to accept defeat where superior species had surrendered. Other races began to bring their lost causes to human stations, their dying companions, their impossible problems. And humans, being human, took them all in. Clara Wyn never expected to become famous. She had simply done what felt right, what felt human. But as she sat in her expanded lab, surrounded by creatures from a dozen different worlds, all thriving under her care, she understood something profound about her species. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their stubborn, irrational, beautiful refusal to give up on those who needed them most. Ravier's stripes glowed bright in the dimness, a beacon of hope in the darkness of space, and Clara smiled. Some gifts were never meant to be given away, they were meant to be earned. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.